So for today, we'll be taking a short practice which is designed for you if you're being a little too hard on yourself. This is a practice that is going to incorporate movements, a meditation, a breathing practice designed to help you get into a little bit of a better place with yourself. So you'll need to have a blanket or a block or possibly both. I have my blanket folded so it's pretty thick. It's pretty thick. And I'm going to put that way up at the top of my mat. And then a block as well could go up there, depending on your particular shape. You may need the block, you may need the blanket. You'll know in a second which one it is. So come to your hands and knees with your head toward the side of the mat where that blanket is. Bring your knees as wide as your mat, your big toes together, and then use your hands to help you push your hips back towards your heels. And then come on down to your elbows. Keep reaching your heart forward, your collarbones wide. Breathe in, and then on your exhale, go ahead and drop into that child's pose. So your forehead could come down to the mat, or you could stack your hands up under your forehead. Even use that blanket if it's not easy for you to get your forehead all the way down. And then for the arms, I like to have my arms in a bracket shape. So I'm holding my opposite forearms or opposite elbows even, which I think is a nice way to kind of relax the shoulders a bit so you can really drop the chest into your child's pose. And since this is our centering pose, take a few moments to become aware of your breath. What parts of you expanding? On the inhale, what parts of you releasing, letting go? On the exhale. And as you continue to be aware of how the breath feels in you right now, slightly lengthen your ins and your outs. And imagine that sitting on the very back of your tongue, almost where your tongue meets your throat, there is the lightest, warmest smile. And of course, it would be hard to smile the back of your tongue without feeling the smile move maybe a little bit into your jaw or into your cheeks, but this can be an internal smile completely. You don't even have to turn the corners of your mouth up. And as you breathe in, allow that breath to move across the smile. And maybe you'll allow the smile to begin to spread toward the lower part of your throat, maybe even into your neck or your chest. Let's just take 2 more breaths, please, in your child's pose, your centering pose. And then press down into your elbows. Come up to elbows and knees and just walk yourself out onto your belly. Out onto your belly and rest your forehead on that blanket, or if you ended up with the block, that's fine. Or you could even rest your forehead on the floor for now, if you'd like. I think you're going to need something in a moment, though. Rest your forehead and maybe arms overhead. Perhaps you want them out to the sides or even beside you on the mat. It's up to you completely. Finding that light, mild, warm smile, the back of the throat. And then please, I'd like for you to just press either down into your left palm or maybe into your left elbow to lift up your chest and take your right arm and thread it under your body. So now your right arm is reaching to the left. You're still on your belly. Your heart is still pointed downward. And you bring your forehead down either to the blanket or onto the block. If you're rather well endowed, you may need a lot more height under your forehead, right? Because you're just going to kind of be hanging there. And a note about the position of the right arm, it's under your chin, but above your boobs, if you have boobs. So it kind of hangs out in that space there. But if you're finding that this is a lot on your shoulder, or maybe you've got just a little too much going on, then you could put a blanket, the blanket under your ribs and the block under your forehead. That will make this a little milder for your shoulder, okay? All yogis need to know how to take care of themselves, how to organize props. So don't feel bad about taking the time to do that now. And what to do with that left arm is just laying to the left as passively as possible. Although you could position the left arm out enough that your heart is truly facing down as much as possible, And come back to that warm smile. As you breathe in, allowing that smile to spread a little further into the body. And imagine this smile is filled with affection. True affection. And the smile, the affection, is for this person in the pose. Breathe that affection towards yourself in. And feel that letting go, that release on the out. Breathing that affection into the heart space, into the shoulder. One more breath, please, and your prone shoulders stretch. And then once again, you'll plant the left hand and just kind of slither and swing your upper body to the left, so that you can roll over onto your right side. You just rest your head on that blanket. Make sure it's not too thick, okay? The right arm is stretched out to the right, and then Go ahead and roll onto your back, all the way onto your back. So it was the left, now that same side is the right, now that you're on your back. And I'd like for you, please, to reach your right arm out to the right as much as you can, a big stretch for that right arm. Maybe you feel your right hip wanting to pick up off of the floor just a little. And then push down into your feet, lift your hips away from the floor, and then just bring them over to the right a little bit. And bring your knees up towards your chest. I know you're a little weird on your mat. It's okay. We'll get there. And then drop your knees all the way off to the left, please. So your right arm is out to the right, your knees are to the left. Your right knee may or may not land on your left knee. Mine doesn't. So maybe you just want to place your left hand on the top of that knee, just to give it an anchor, some stability, but not to pull it down. Breathing that affection past the back of the tongue, the beginning of the throat, into the body. This affection is pure. It sees the self exactly for what it is, and it has affection. Not just for what the self thinks is good and virtuous, but for the faults and foibles as well. For the mistakes and the regrets. But also the successes and the hopes. This affection is unconditional. Allow it to be drawn deeper into the body, neck, chest, right shoulder, right ribs. Everything that passes, that smile, that affection is drawn in. Let's take 2 more breaths in your supine twist. And then you're going to actually roll onto your left side. Roll over onto your left side. And just take a break there on your side just for a moment. That right shoulder had a bit of a journey just now. So just experience the right shoulder here. And then roll into your hands. Come up to all fours, to your hands and knees. Your face, your head is still toward that front of the mat, the blanket that your priest set. And even as you're still arriving, do a little cow and cat. And again, if you could, be aware of your right shoulder, but also your left shoulder. Just comparing in real time how they feel. Inhaling past that smile, that affection, that warmth for self, that care, that love. Let's do one more cow and cat. And you're breathing, by the way, however you want. It's up to you. And then let's come back to your belly, back to that prone position with your forehead potentially resting on your blanket, arms resting. Let's just take a couple of breaths in this reference position here. And reestablish your smile in the back of your tongue, in your cheeks, in your throat, maybe even in your sinuses. Can you smile in your sinuses? And then you plant your right hand or your elbow. You'll lift up so that you can thread your left arm under you. And then with your belly and chest still toward the floor, go ahead and land your forehead on something. It may need to be very high, okay? And then if you're going to use the blanket under your ribs again and the block under your forehead, that's great. That'll make a little channel for your boobs and your arm if needed. Or if it's just really, really tight, you might need to just be a little bit lifted away from the floor. And that affection, that care for self is really the guide. How can I care best for myself in this moment? Often we really only feel like we're worthy of affection or love or care or warmth when we feel like we're doing good, when we're perfect. And when we mess up, or we feel like we're not measuring up, we deny ourselves that affection from both self and others. In the yoga tradition, all yogas agree, non-dualistic yogas agree, that the self is whole. The individual a part of the collective, and each individual self is whole, complete. Is whole, always has been whole, will never not be whole. So breathe in that affection for the whole self, the good, the bad. Breathe in that affection for this self which sometimes struggles. Allow that smile to move into the left shoulder. The left chest. The left upper back. How does it feel to breathe affection and warmth into these areas? Let's take one more breath, please. In your prone shoulder stretch. And if, by the way, you're feeling a little bit confused, this pose can be a little confusing. I do have a free course that's available on my website, which provides you with a daily PDF over 8 days with images of all these poses that I'm always teaching. So if you'd like a resource to use at home, check that out when your practice is done. We'll plant that right hand. You'll press up just a little bit so that you can slither and slide your upper body over to the right, and then lay on your left side, and then roll all the way onto your back. Correct your blanket or your block. I don't think a block under the head now is warranted. I would advise against it. And make sure your head isn't too elevated or it'll really disrupt the spinal harmony and rhythm and the twist. Press your feet into the floor. Lift your hips away from the ground and then bring your hips to the left and drop them. Draw your two knees into your chest. Reach that left arm out as far as you can to the left and then drop your knees to the right. Feel that big stretch across the front of the left shoulder. Feet are not too close to your rear end, but your knees are pointed straight out to the right. And you might like to use your right hand on top of your left knee. Not to push it down, right? This warmth and affection does not advocate for pushing and striving. It encourages us to be kind, patient. And feel that smile. Spreading into the left chest, the left shoulder, the left ribs. The sinuses, the cheeks, even the lower teeth. So when we're being very hard on ourselves, we often deny ourselves affection, both from self and others. But I would argue that the time that you need the most affection is when you're not feeling great about yourself. We're all drawn to validation, affirmation. All of us love the way that feels, right? Many of us could wait a very long time before we receive that from others. But who's better prepared to offer validation for you and the kind of affirmation that you need than you? Give yourself that now. Validating that maybe you're not perfect, but you're whole, you're valuable. Affirming that you struggle like everyone else, you struggle. But you're doing your very best. Let's just take one more breath. In your supine twist, and then roll all the way over onto your right side. Just lay your left arm on your side. Just rest there for a moment and feel your left shoulder, your left side body. Breathing that warmth and affection all the way down to the waist. And then roll into your left hand, come back to your tabletop position, your all fours. And this time as you come into the cow pose, I'd like for you please to inhale across that smile. And this time exhale across the smile. Exhale affection. Inhale warmth and care for self. Exhale warmth and care for someone else who might be going through exactly what you're going through. Might be struggling in very similar ways. Inhale affection. Exhale affection for that unknown, anonymous person that you see struggling, trying their best, sometimes failing. Let's do 2 more cow and cat, please. And then walk your 2 knees to one side so that you can drop your hips to the other side. And then spin to face the back of your mat and roll all the way down onto your back yet again with your head on the blanket. But actually, I'm going to have you move that blanket so that it's no longer under your head, but it's a little past the back of your mat, just a little bit past. And then please have your feet flat and about hips width distance apart. So the kneecaps point straight up to the sky, feet are flat, standing on the floor. Arms are by your sides. Breathe in care and warmth. Through that smile, exhale, breathe it out. Give it to someone who needs it. So once again, plant that smile at the back of the throat as you inhale this time. Push into your feet. Reach your arms up to the ceiling and then over as you rise into the bridge, lifting your hips away from the ground, any amount. And then exhale, your arms float back down to your sides as your rear end moves back to the floor. Breathe in that fierce affection for self. Maybe a smile even finding its way to the front of your mouth, the tip of your tongue. Breathe out affection for someone else who needs it. Silently affirming their struggles as well. Inhale, fiercely smiling that affection into self. Exhale, send it out. Your rear comes to the floor, your arms to your sides. 2 more. Next time, your feet plant. Your arms reach over, your rear end lifts. Roll all the way to the backs of your shoulders, maybe even to the tops of your shoulders, pushing with your feet. And then keep your arms overhead, but begin to drop your vertebra to the floor, rolling them down one at a time, trying to land your back as flat as possible while keeping your arms resting overhead on that blanket. Land as flat as you can, all the way down to the floor. Keep your back as flat as you can and breathe into your chest. Smile into your heart. And then smile from your heart. Acknowledging, affirming that you are whole. You always have been whole. You will never not be whole. You're valuable no matter what. One more breath. I know this position can be a little intense. And then allow the spine to return to a more neutral shape. Drag the blanket under your head before you bring your arms out to the sides. One at a time, send your legs out long on your mat, preparing for your Shavasana. If you need any additional props for Shavasana, please do take them. Notice both of your shoulders, your chest. Allow that smile to take up the whole mouth, the sinuses, the eyes. For 2 more breaths, just affirm this self. You are lovable, valuable. You deserve affection and care. And you alone are the best person to offer it to yourself right now. And as you exhale this last time, you release your mantra, you release this meditation, you release the breath. Allow the body just to sink and settle into the mat. You just be here now. You've done the work. Please stay as long as you can in this Shavasana. Namaste.